What's good with yourself, people? Victory and Vices podcast, episode 29. Me, Rory Spooner, back again. Vec Doggy Dog, going to give you some stats and facts that you've been missing for the past week, because I know you're begging for us to come back. Where are we starting, broski? You want to start United?
Yeah, I think it's the only place really we can start.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And anybody who doesn't want us to start at United, it's kind of too late now. But, it is what it is. It was one of the best games of football I've probably seen in a while. I tweeted out it was like an NBA game.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
It was literally so up and down the pitch. I just remember thinking this could be 9-8. And it would have been if it wasn't for Neo in the Matrix, David De Gea himself, because it was... anybody that paid... I criticise football clubs sometimes. I don't think they look after fans. And we'll come into that a little bit later on as well. But if I had paid for a ticket to watch that game, I would have come away, even as a Spurs fan, hugely satisfied.
Very happy, yeah.
What a spectacle.
Yeah, I would say that's in the top 3 games this season for me. You've got the Liverpool City game just recently, which was excellent as well.
Brilliant
and
game.
The other one that springs to mind is the North London derby, Arsenal Spurs, earlier on in the season.
Game, yeah.
Also a very, very good game. But what's even more pleasing for myself, and I'm sure you'll agree, United fans as well, and I think Reece also mentioned it, that I can't remember the last time United have been involved in such an exciting game as well.
It was terrific to watch, man.
You usually associated United, or especially the United team of this season before Solskjaer, boring, mundane, negative games, 10 men behind the ball. Even at home, even when they were winning games, you still wouldn't really call them exciting games. And this one was totally different. It
was incredible, to watch it. And I spoke to neutrals as well, so people who support other clubs like Liverpool and various other Premier League clubs, and they all said the same thing. They said, what a joy to watch. It was brilliant. And the game itself, I have to give credit to Spurs. Considering they had such a tough game at Chelsea in the week in the Cup, to come and play like they did against United, I thought it was incredible. They really dug in for Pochettino. I know they lost, and people will say, typical Spurs, it's a very Spursy thing. Yeah, okay, Spurs have their frailties. But the performance they put in showed some character, like a serious amount of character. They just the kilometres they covered as a team. I still think they outran United. It just says everything you need to know about Spurs.
I don't think that was a Spursy performance at all, not even slightly, because if it wasn't for David De Gea making, I think it was 11 very, very good saves, some better than others. Some have even argued that they were straight at him or whatever. They were routine saves. Ben Foster actually tweeted.
I saw.
And I think I retweeted it as well, mentioned it to Reece, that just because they're straight at him doesn't mean that they're that easy. There's a reason that he's there in those positions.
Yeah, that's instinct.
It's instinct, and it's excellent positioning from De Gea, knowing where to be.
Right, yeah.
So it's easy for people to say, they're easy saves. You ask a goalkeeper, a professional goalkeeper, and he will tell you totally different.
That's
and it tends to be the people who either haven't played in goals or aren't goalkeepers who will be the first ones to say how easy those are.
It's the hardest position on the pitch as well. Again, if people disagree with us, let us know. But to me, if you can play in one position, generally you can play in 2 or 3 on a football pitch. But not everybody can be a goalkeeper.
No,
and like you said, to actually be in the right place at the right time is it's incredible.
Yeah. And obviously, just going back to Spurs as well, their second half performance was incredibly good. As you said, they played Chelsea in the week. They had a very, very tough game then. You could argue for 60, 70 minutes, Chelsea, they really give them the runabout as well, and were lucky to not get the result. But as much as you credit Spurs for their second half performance, you got to credit United and Solskjaer's tactics in the first half especially. Gary Neville said it best as well. He said they literally caught Pochettino and Spurs out, caught them completely cold. They didn't expect us to set it the way that they did. They didn't expect us to counter and split the 2 strikers like we did as well, with Lingard just floating in between Martial and Rashford. So it was very much a game of 2 halves. Spurs couldn't figure United out in the first half, and obviously the Pogba with a brilliant pass to Rashford with a good finish as well. But second half they really came out and they really stuck it to United. And they were very unlucky, as I said, not to get the equaliser.
Yeah, tactically, I don't know if that was maybe all Solskjaer or Kieran McKenna or Michael Carrick had any type of input into it, or Mike Phelan. But I thought that was one of my main reservations about Solskjaer is, okay, yes, he can motivate players. He's an ex-United player. There'll be a buzz around the place. But tactically, how good is he at the highest level?
Yeah.
And maybe not just him, but that whole sort of team. They've demonstrated that
Yeah.
they do have the ability at the top level to make something happen. So now they have my curiosity. I'm still not 100% convinced, even after 6 games in, because I'm still thinking United are very open, and I do think on another day Spurs, like you said, could have got 4 or 5. And David De Gea is not going to save everything all the time.
No, of course he's not. But I still don't think that that game against Spurs, had we have won, it shouldn't have been the game to judge Solskjaer's reign. And had we have lost, it still shouldn't be the game to judge his reign. We need to see more, not just the one big game. Because before this Spurs game, all we heard was, oh yeah, they're playing great, and they look more fluid and they look more up for it. But they've only beaten They've only beaten Newcastle. They've only beaten Red, and they've only beaten, was it Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth or whatever. Yeah. And you wait till the big test come, and Solskjaer, like you say, whether it was him or his assistants or just a combination of all of them, that was a pretty good away performance. And going away to Spurs in the form that they are in, that's a very, very big 3 points.
It's huge.
And like you just rightly said there, you're not convinced, but it's grabbed your attention.
Yeah.
And I think as United fans, even the ones that maybe, myself included, that had big question marks over Solskjaer's appointment, he's at the very least grabbed my attention to say, okay, what can you really do then? And I'm not convinced he'll get the full-time job. I'm still not yet convinced that I want him to have it.
That's a lovely little segue into what I was going to ask you next, because again, United fans, let us know what you think about Solskjaer getting a full-time job, because if he takes United into the top 4, which potentially he could do, I mean, it's still a very difficult task. Chelsea, are a few points ahead, but United have caught Arsenal. Kind of all expected that, I suppose, anyway. But realistically, I mean, if he takes United into the top 4, goes on a decent Champions League run, maybe wins a trophy, does he get a full-time job?
Well, I think he's then asking the question, isn't he? And like I said in a previous episode, he's in a win-win position, Solskjaer, because he's been given this opportunity. Some have argued that he shouldn't have had it, but for whatever reason, he's got it and he's in the position. Now, if he did just an average or no better, no worse than Mourinho, then he leaves no better or worse off than what he was. Nobody expected anything better of him.
That's true, yeah. It's a free hit, it is.
So it is a free hit, and he's 6 from 6 so far. He's taken his first big scalp, and if he carries on the way that he is and they play the way that they are, then who knows where he could get. If he could even get on a little run in the Champions League. I know PSG's a very tough tie, but do you imagine he comes out of that going into the next round?
I mean, look, if he comes out of that, if he gets past Arsenal in the FA Cup, that's in 2 weeks' time, and then PSG is, it's about a month away, give or take, is that right? So if he gets past those games, realistically, there's gonna be some momentum behind him.
Well, they got Brighton at home next now, and you'd realistically think that on the form they're in, the way they're playing, to get 3 points there. They've got Arsenal, I think, away in the cup. Arsenal,
they do, yeah.
Ain't on a great run of form at the moment, so you could, you'd be looking at that and thinking they could win that as well. And I think the next couple of league fixtures after that aren't so bad either. So, we could be looking at in a month or so time now them going on maybe a 9, 10, 11 game winning streak. And who knows where they'll end up there. They could be really knocking on the door of the top 4 then, depending on Chelsea's and Arsenal's results as well. So I really don't know. It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one for me.
The whole Pochettino thing interests me even more than it did a few weeks ago. There's various different factors we have to take into consideration now. You look at Spurs. They kind of have one foot in the final of the League Cup. Now, a lot of people think, the League Cup, it's nothing, it's a Mickey Mouse Cup. But if he then wins Spurs a trophy, all of a sudden he may go, it's going to be really difficult for me to leave this. And it really is going to be difficult anyway. But if he wins a trophy, all of a sudden he's going to be thinking, well, can I win more? And then obviously you've got Solskjaer. He's doing his thing at United as well. I'm starting to look at Pochettino now. And even though he probably is the standout for the United job, I have doubts that he'd even want to do it now after all of this.
Yeah. Now, the big question for me, if I'm Pochettino, okay, now I want to know what Spurs fans think about this as well.
Yeah, let us know, Spurs fans.
If I'm Pochettino, the big question for me, which would probably help me decide whether I'm going to stay at Spurs or go to United or even Madrid, okay, or someone like that, is in the summer, is Daniel Levy going to back me big time? Because he hasn't backed me in the last window. I don't think he really backed him in the window before, if I remember as well. Now, Spurs are at that stage where they are really challenging, and you could argue that they're overachieving as well. Okay. Now, you mentioned the cup win in the week, and that is a lot of tired legs. And you look at their bench against United, it's not all that great.
No,
decent,
it's not. It does lack a bit of depth.
They don't have anywhere near the same quality to come on that goes off. Now, you would argue that they would need good signings, to be able to come on and do the job. Now, Spurs fans have called up on the radio before and said, "Oh, well, it's going to cost a lot of money to buy a player, to come into the squad or to try and be better than the starting 11." That's the way it is. The Uniteds, the Cities, the Liverpools, they just spend money because they need the depth with all the competitions that you're in. So, if he is able to win a League Cup, which he could very well do, it's the summer transfer window is huge for me.
You think that's the deciding factor?
That's the deciding factor.
Yeah.
I think towards the end of the season, or if he hasn't already had the meeting already, if Poch meets with Daniel Levy and Daniel Levy pretty much says, "I'm not really going to give you, maybe you can have 50 million or whatever, or even 100 million." I don't think that's enough investment. And after, I think, how many years? 4 or 5 years with Poch at the club?
Give or take, yeah.
If I'm Poch and then saying, right, I'm out.
We're done.
I'm done.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I mean, I'm doing my transfer videos this week. Vecchi's done his. If you haven't seen them, go check them out already. Vecchi did United. He did Liverpool and Chelsea. Really good videos. Some interesting picks from Vecchi there as well. I'm going to be doing Man City, Spurs, and Arsenal. I've got Man City, who really don't need an awful lot, so that's going to be a difficult video to do. Arsenal, we've established, can only get loan signings, and Spurs, with their stadium, they're very hindered. So there's not a lot of money in North London flying around right now.
No, not at all.
So it's a struggle for both of them. But yeah, Spurs will be very interesting in the summer. I mean, if Pochettino goes, who replaces him?
Yeah, they've mentioned,
It's
I've heard about Eddie Howe and things like that.
I'm not convinced.
Not convinced, but then I suppose, when they signed Pochettino, he only had a good run at Southampton. Really under his belt in the Premier League, so there was question marks over Pochettino when they employed him.
Would you say Moyes at Spurs? No, well, I'm only shitting you Spurs fans.
No, I wouldn't at all. But if you look at the sort of the reaction around when they appointed Poch, I don't think it would be all that too dissimilar to if they appointed Eddie Howe. It's just the fact that how far they've moved on since Poch has come in, versus where they were when he took over.
Yeah,
would be the main difference there. But it's all very interesting, and it all kind of depends on Solskjaer in a way as well, and how he does. But just wanted to point out some facts as well about Spurs. Now they've actually lost from the United loss this weekend. They've lost consecutive home games for the first time since May 2015.
Really?
Okay. And they've also lost 4 home games this season, and that's actually double the amount they had lost in the last 2 seasons combined. So
it's interesting.
For us, and that's quite. When I read that stat, I was quite interested in that because of how well they've done this season. When you actually look into it, their away form is so good. This is
one of their better starts, isn't it?
I think it is their best.
Their best start. Yeah.
And to think they've lost more games at home than they've lost in the last 2 seasons before that. So
we say home against a very loose term because Wembley is not their stadium, but they're making the best of a bad situation.
It's taken so long to get their actual stadium. It is pretty much their home at the moment, isn't it?
It is,
But yeah, and so interesting stat that one because they don't tend to draw games, and they still haven't drawn a game this season, Spurs, and they tend to be very good on the road. But Kane also had 7 shots in the match. He last had more without finding the net back in January 2018, where he had 8 without scoring against United.
I was going to say that was against United, was
again,
it right?
Yeah.
Wow, Kane, sorry, mate.
De Gea is standing in the way of you bagging too many goals against United. I think he's only got, it's one or 2 against United, whereas he tends to bag, a lot.
Phil Jones usually scores own goals against Spurs. I was waiting for a Phil Jones fuck up, and I was watching. There was one chance where Harry Kane spins off the back of him, and then he has his strike, and De Gea, I think, saved it with his feet. But I was just waiting for Phil Jones to fuck up.
De Gea spared Jones blushes on a couple of occasions, I think. But I'm just want to shine a bit of light on Pogba as well, because we talked a lot about De Gea. Rashford as well, obviously, was very good with his finish.
Yeah.
But Pogba's pass was absolutely world class. And he mentioned how they practice that in training, so it's not just a fluke thing. But he's actually been involved in 53% of United's 15 Premier League goals since Solskjaer took over. 4 goals and 4 assists.
Yeah.
And
showing his class, isn't he?
Yeah, and again, just like United, a lot of people said that they need to see Pogba doing it in the big games.
He did.
And he did.
And do you know what? When he does it in the big games, he looks absolutely magnificent. Yeah. I don't know who it was. Was it Martin Tyler or Gary Neville that said he was rampaging along the pitch? The guy was an absolute animal.
He's a unit.
He's a beast. There's nothing he doesn't have. Pace, power, strength, technical ability. He can score as well. He was unlucky, Lloris made a decent save too at one point. That's the Paul Pogba we all want to see. Even neutrals want to see that Paul Pogba, because that's the type of guy you go and pay your money to see. You go, I really want a ticket to this game to see this guy play.
That's why United paid, it was 89 or 90 million pounds.
Close to 100 probably. Yeah.
And that's what you expect from a player that you've paid that much money for. Now, like you rightly said, we know that he can shift. He's got pace. We know that his dribbling ability with the ball at feet is excellent. He can pick a pass from anywhere. He's strong. He's got a good leap. He can score goals with his head, with either foot. We know all of this. You would probably go as far to say, and I don't want to overstate this, but in terms of the tools that he has and outright natural ability, as a midfielder, he's got the ability to be better than any midfield player in the world.
Right now, I'd say he has the potential to be the best young midfielder.
The potential is there, because name me another midfield player with more attributes than he has.
A young midfielder.
Any midfielder with more attributes than he has. The combination of his pace, his skill, his passing range.
In the Premier League, you've got De Bruyne. De Bruyne, I'd say, is probably on par with him when they're both fully fit and fully firing. Just past them, Bernardo Silva, maybe? Yeah,
but he's not strong. He can't.
He's strong for his size, though. He's strong, but I know what you mean. He's not the same.
If you're playing a game of top jumps with footballers, Pogba's got everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing missing is the consistency. So hopefully, this is it now.
I would agree with that.
Because what you can see now is his attitude and his desire is a polar opposite to what it was under Mourinho.
Yeah.
And he interestingly said in an interview after as well about the tactics. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah, I saw part of it. Yeah.
And he didn't kind of say it outright, but he was giving off little hints that basically under Mourinho the tactics were a bit. He used the word difficult.
Right, that's being generous.
Yeah, very generous. Yeah. That's being tight-lipped. So you obviously know that Solskjaer and Phelan, etc., have just loosened the reins on him a little bit, and you can see, how much they're working out for him at the moment.
Quick, just going back to Pogba. Quick question: do you think he was lucky to stay on for his challenge on Dele Alli?
Yeah, he was lucky.
I thought it was a red. I'm not going to lie. Again, let us know your opinion, people. I thought it was a red.
I'm a United fan, and as you know, and I'll defend all of our players as much as I can. And Darren Fletcher said, the way that he plays, the way that he sort of his long legs and he slides in and tries to turn in and out of situations. I totally get that, and that is the way that he plays, because he puts his body in front of his long legs in the way, and it's totally accidental. But in modern day football, I wouldn't have been surprised to see him sent off. Yeah,
and Mike Dean as well. Did you see that little thing with him with the yellow card?
The
way he's holding the yellow card.
Dynamo.
Oh, just fuck off, Mike Dean. Seriously, it's not about you. Just do your job, isn't it? What happened to this? Remember, people refs used to just get on with things and do things just in a normal way.
Take the card out of your pocket and issue it
God's
like
sake,
every other.
The guy is such
referee.
a gimp. But anyway, yeah. Just to round off on United Spurs very quickly. Who do you think is the most improved United player under Solskjaer?
Well, I think the obvious choice you would say right away is Pogba.
I would say so, yeah.
But we've obviously spent a lot of time talking about him. So after that, I would probably say, I thought about Lindelof, but he was starting to get.
He was doing all right anyway.
Yeah. So he was one of the better of the bunch. But I'd probably say Rashford.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Pogba and Rashford.
So I think he scored in 3 consecutive games for the first time in his career as well. I read that. And interestingly as well, just before we move on to the next fixture, he's leaving Fellaini, Mata, and Lukaku on the bench. Okay, I know if Lukaku's come off the bench and got 3 and 3, but he's playing the way that he's used to with United, which is just pace.
As it should be,
people who can run in behind and attack. And you don't get that with Fellaini. And we've used Fellaini as an option for whatever reason because of Mourinho's style that he's wanted to input. But Mourinho, Fellaini's not a United player.
Oh God, he's never been a United player.
For all Mata's ability, he's not really a true United player either, is he?
Technically he is. But what Juan Mata lacks now is pace. Yeah. So there's certain games where you can put Juan Mata in and he's a terrific asset to have because, as he's shown, he'll score terrific goals. Remember Wanfield as well, where he had that sort of the scissor kick. Yeah. His technical ability is not in question. Even going back to his goal against Juventus, the free kick, there's certain games he's built for, but he's not built for the Premier League overall.
Especially with his age now as well, I wouldn't have him start in many games for United.
He's an asset as a squad player. Yeah.
In the Champions League and in all competitions, his ability will offer you something. Correct. But it was just nice to see Martial, Lingard, and Rashford in a front 3.
Yeah.
Because it's just out and out raw pace and ability.
That whole Fellaini situation is a weird one because what United have now is a depreciating asset. They've given him a big contract.
Yeah.
Solskjaer doesn't like the look of him. I imagine the new manager that comes in will probably want someone else as well. So I could easily see Fellaini going in the summer. Mourinho, for some reason, I don't know if Fellaini had some type of dirt on him and was blackmailing him, but he would constantly use Fellaini off the bench. He's so technically limited. Don't get me wrong, right? Again, decent little asset to have in certain games because he will offer you something, and he's shown that. He's not the worst footballer in the world, but when you constantly play him, Mata, Lukaku in the same team, there is just no pace.
Well,
there's nothing.
He almost seemed to use him as an asset to dig himself out of his own problem that he created.
And then dug his own grave by continually using him.
So, the Mourinho situation perplexes me as much as any, but we'll end that on saying that Fellaini is not a United player, and I'd be quite glad not to see him in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever he does in his career, best of luck to him, because, he has had it rough at United, sometimes very unnecessarily, but I'm in agreement with that. United need a fresh start, and they don't need Marouane Fellaini there. We'll move on to other clubs in North London, because my other transfer video is going to be about Arsenal. Now, Arsenal fans, I can't turn water into wine. I just can't. I'm good, but I'm not that good. It's very difficult for me to pull names out of a hat, right, and actually do a transfer video when I know they can only have loan signings. Now, I watch Arsenal fan TV as I always do on the weekends because I love watching it. Even as a United fan, they're the one club, I don't know, not that I root for them, I just really, Arsenal they just fascinate me for some reason, right? I don't know, there's something about that club. They have so much potential. I just don't think they'll ever realise it. But Arsenal fan TV was interesting. They're all starting to get on the same wavelength. If you watched the last episode, which you should have done, I did my Arsenal piece about Stan Kroenke and
his overspending.
Oh man, there's overspending and then there's overspending. Like, you may go into a shop, right? You go, I spent an extra 30 quid. Stan Kroenke was out by almost $2.5 billion. So he's building a new stadium in LA for his NFL team. Now, NFL is his passion, right? Make no mistake. Arsenal is just a business. So he has gone over budget by $2.5 billion. As we've seen, it's affecting Arsenal. Now, Spurs are building their stadium. They couldn't spend any money in the transfer windows. Somebody else is building a stadium, and it's affecting Arsenal's transfer window. The Arsenal fans and Arsenal TV are rightly vexed, and I feel sorry for them. These people spend their time, effort, and money, and a lot of money, might I add, ploughing that into making Arsenal Football Club a better club. For Stan Kroenke to turn around and say, by the way, I know you all pay $1,000+ for season tickets, but we can only sign loan players. Yeah. Oh, that's outrageous. That's fucking outrageous. Yeah. As a football fan and other football fans, even if you don't like Arsenal, and we'll come on to Mike Ashley and Newcastle later, but these people take football fans for mugs. They fucking take the piss. Yeah. Like, how are you going to turn around and say you can only have loan signings?
I don't really see how you can justify it. And
it's horrendous.
What I will say is that, and Arsenal fans, would like to hear your input in this as well.
I really want to hear Arsenal fans' input.
But it must be probably, I think Arsenal fans have to be the most frustrated. And I even say that compared to, Huddersfield fans, Fulham fans, Newcastle fans even as well. Because the frustration level is different depending on where your club is at and what the expectations are of them. And as an Arsenal fan, I can't think of anything more frustrating than what's going on with them right now. And what's been going on for the past few years as well. Because you've got, obviously, Emery's come in now. They went on a 22-game unbeaten run. And you compare that to United's worst ever start to a Premier League season, they both sit on 41 points.
Okay? Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is crazy, like you said. Now, when they had the new stadium, it was supposed to be, they're going to be financing everything themselves.
They were supposed to be the Bayern Munich of the Premier League.
Yeah. Financing everything themselves, and the future is bright. They'd be able to, splash all this money out on players that United, Cities, Chelsea's were doing. And it just hasn't happened.
It hasn't.
And you've got Kroenke ploughing pretty much all of his money into America. That's like planning your weekly shop. That whole stadium thing. Planning your weekly shop and saying, I'm going to spend £100 this weekend. And then going and spending like $4,000.
There's over budget and there's over budget. If you haven't read any articles on Arsenal fans, please go away, do a bit of research on it. It's it boggles the mind. The NFL have signed off on it as well now, so the debt limit, they've increased it.
It's like your partner's checked your statement and gone, what's happened to you? And you've gone, and overestimated this a little bit.
Look, I said over the past few years, Stan Kroenke has bought a ranch in Texas for $750 million. He's gone and bought a new stadium. He's developing a new stadium for almost $5 billion.
Yeah.
Yet he will not give Arsenal a centre back. I watched, as I say, Arsenal fan TV, and they were trying to come up with ways of hurting Stan Kroenke without physically hurting him. Although I'm sure some of them would give him an absolute beating if they could. Yeah. But DT was saying on Arsenal fan TV, he's like, okay, Arsenal make around $3 million in revenue on a match day each day. So don't buy from the club shop. Start hitting him where it hurts. The only way, and we've been over this in previous podcasts if you listen, especially on the Newcastle topic, if you want an owner out, the only way you're going to hurt him is by hitting him in the pocket. It's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. And I know Arsenal fans, they love go watching their club and they love to support them and they want to be there and physically be a part of it. But sometimes you have to take a step back from the situation and be like, you know what? Needs must now. Because Arsenal, and I'll make this statement now, and we can come back to it another time, they will never be successful under Stan Kroenke. That's all I'm going to say now.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Stan Kroenke will probably come back and say, I've spent 60 million on Aubameyang, I spent 50 million on Lacazette, I spent 30 odd million on Torreira. So they've made, I feel like those signings they've made to just try and keep the fans quiet, because I think Kroenke has pretty much looked at the situation and gone, well, I have to make a signing now just to put something out there, just to show that we're doing something, but it's nowhere near enough. And we spoke about their defence previously, and their deficiencies and where they need strengthening. And it's got to that point now where, like you say, it only seems like they're going to make loan signings, if any signings whatsoever. And you could see where they really struggled on the weekend as well. Yeah,
look, I mean, there's no point over analysing Arsenal because we do it every week. We know the deficiencies.
We know the score,
we know the deficiencies. Arsenal fans, they know the deficiencies that they have. Mm-hmm. Arsenal lack leadership in defence. They lack quality in defence. They probably lack in a few other areas as well. Going forward, we won't get into the Mesut Ozil situation too much. Just your opinion quickly. Do you think he will leave in the summer?
Yes.
I'm of that opinion now as well.
I think he has to as well.
A lot of Arsenal fans were Emery out, which I found bizarre considering he's barely been there 6 months. But clearly he doesn't like Mesut Ozil. I doubt Mesut Ozil likes him. For $350k a week to not be in the squad and not making the bench or staying on the bench, it's a really bad investment.
Well, it's not too dissimilar to the United situation when Moyes took over. From what I see, the style of football is slightly different. They went on a bit of a better run than what United did. But when Emery took over, a lot of Arsenal fans, you heard them saying, he deserves time. He needs to be given time. He's got to build. They're not going to judge him on his first season. All this sort of thing, right? He gets off to a pretty good start, and I'm pretty sure you remember me saying not so long ago, before they started going this really bad run, that they can't keep rescuing games for much longer.
That's true, yeah, you did say that.
I read a stat somewhere as well that if the Premier League table was only on first half, they would be bottom of the league on the relegation zone. And if it was based on the second half, they'd be top of the league.
Yeah.
And I said previously on other episodes that this 22-game unbeaten run that they went on, the fans can't see it's papering over the cracks of how poor they still are.
Yeah.
And that they were winning games in the second half and that it couldn't go on for much longer, as we're seeing now. So in the last 5 away games, they've taken 2 points. Before that run, the previous 5 away games to that, they took 13 from 15. And we mentioned again earlier on in the podcast, in a previous episode, how much their away form was better than what it used to be. Now Arsenal fans, their expectations, maybe 2 or 3 months back, seem to shift again. That because they went on this decent run, maybe Emery could squeeze into the top 4. Maybe Emery could win a trophy. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do that. And now it's getting so much worse now because it kind of reminds me of a United situation where I think Moyes maybe only won his first sort of 4 or 5 games.
It's a dark chapter. I try not to remember too much.
And it looked like, hang on, this could go a little bit better than what we thought, and maybe the bedding-in period will take far less than we thought. But it's very similar with Arsenal. Now they've seemed to just flatline out, and they just look as they were.
Flatline is a very good way of describing it. Like I said, Arsenal have their deficiencies.
Yeah.
We won't dig a grave for Arsenal fans because they're probably already digging their own. Just going back to the West Ham team, Sami Nasri came in, looked really good. Seems like he'll be a quality signing alongside Felipe Anderson. A lot of skill, a lot of creativity. Declan Rice, to me, looks like a younger Eric Dyer. I'm not fully on the hype train yet. Maybe I might be wrong.
I'll be honest and say I haven't seen enough of him yet. I've watched obviously Match of the Day in the games that he's played, but there's only so much that you can get from a performance on a highlight reel for Match of the Day.
Very true.
I do need to watch more.
Good player,
the games,
but I still think
he looks a prospect.
Yeah, it's a long way to go yet. It's intriguing, right, that there's a battle for his services, shall we say, between Republic of Ireland and England. England, for some reason, aren't rating him that highly, and the Republic of Ireland, Christ, God knows they need players. Let me tell you. So
yeah, well, I was listening to something on TalkSport this morning, I think it was, and I think it was Ray Parlour or I can't remember who was on the breakfast show, was saying that if I was Gareth Southgate, I'd be trying to nail him down as an England player, and I couldn't quite work that out because yes, I said I haven't seen a great deal of him, but from what I have seen, I don't think he's done enough to justify England crying out for him, or
England aren't crying out
within
for
their
him.
Midfield.
That's the harsh reality. Again, he's a decent little prospect, but
if I'm Declan Rice, my advice to him would be it might be worth looking at the Ireland option because the way that you're playing at the moment, he's far more likely to make an international career out of playing for Ireland than he would for England.
Yeah, that's very true. Just to touch upon West Ham very quickly, and we'll sort of round it off there before we go to a quick interval. Arnautovic, we've talked in the last podcast, ironically, how he is definitely good enough to play in a top 6 side. He walked off that pitch basically waving goodbye.
Yeah.
Would you, if you were him, I know the money is astronomical, right? And it's so difficult to turn down because it's like being given a winning lottery ticket. Even though his career is perfectly fine and people would say you've already won the lottery once, this is like winning the lottery 10 times over. Would you go, if you were him, to China?
It depends if that's the only offer on the table, because we've talked about he could play for, he could be in the United squad, Liverpool squad, Arsenal squad, whatever, Chelsea squad. Then if that's the only offer, say what's maybe 100 grand a week at West Ham,
probably
give or take a bit either side.
Yeah.
I don't even know the figures on the table, but you'd imagine the way they're describing it, he might be working out as maybe 400,000, £500,000 £600,000 a week in China.
I'd say it's probably minimum 300k a week.
So say it's between £300,000 and £500,000, which is money that he's never even got a sniff of.
That's just,
if that's his only offer, then do I blame him for turning it down? No, absolutely not, because he could go there for maybe 1 or 2 seasons
and still
make
come
an
back,
absolute fortune, and come back. But what I would be asking my agent as Arnautovic is there any interest from United?
Clearly there
Chelsea?
Probably isn't right now, because if there was,
because if there was from a United, Chelsea, Arsenal, etc., who would maybe offer him 150, 200 grand plus a week, then there's a big case for him to stay.
But otherwise,
if that's not on the table, go.
Yeah, no, fair shout. Yeah, well done, West Ham, looking good. Arsenal, I say no. The only way is up with Arsenal.
Well, yeah, and just lastly as well, West Ham managed to register their first home win against Arsenal for the first time since November 2006.
West Ham fans would love that.
But
just before we go as well, did you see Mia Khalifa in the thing? Do you know Mia Khalifa?
I know Mia
Khalifa.
Mia Khalifa, and you should know Mia Khalifa as well.
I did know who she was, I'll be honest with you. I'm not up on all that type of stuff. But shout out to Mia Khalifa. She came over, she was on Arsenal Fan TV. She's actually a really interesting character, aside from the other stuff she was doing before. But Mia Khalifa came on, and it was just really interesting to see.
Arsenal fan?
No, she's a West Ham fan.
Oh, okay.
It was really interesting to see because she was on Arsenal Fan TV, and I thought, oh, this girl's an Arsenal fan. She's a West Ham fan. Do you know why she's a West Ham fan?
No, go on.
I believe it was watching Green Street?
Okay, yeah.
So that she was watching Green Street and became a West Ham fan.
No, that's mental.
I know. But anyway, shout out to Mia Khalifa.
If you don't know who Mia Khalifa is, was you watching? Probably a little Google search.
Yeah, do a Google search.
Do a Google search and
don't do it
enjoy.
Around. Yeah, don't do it around parents or in the
just
workplace.
anyone really. Yeah,
I would do it in a quiet room. But yeah, beyond that, we'll go to a quick interval right now, gang. Add us all up, me and Becky on the IG and Twitter and the VMV ones. We'll be back in a moment. We'll have the best of the rest. Alright people, we're back. So, hope you've added us all up on the relevant platforms. We will segue nicely into the Newcastle game, from one shite owner to another. Now, the whole Mike Ashley situation, we've been over it on previous podcasts with Reece being a Newcastle fan, and it's something Reece is very passionate about. Newcastle themselves are struggling again this season. Reece asked us the question, at what point does Rafa Benitez just jack it all in and go, you know what, enough's enough? Me and Becky seem to think the end of the season that will probably happen. The game itself, I mean, we'll touch upon that very quickly. Chelsea struggling again.
Yeah.
A bit of Willian magic really saved them, to be honest with you. Although DeAndre Yedlin should have shown him down the line. The absolute basics of defending just elude DeAndre Yedlin. Terrific athlete, but you know, when we talk about footballing IQ and technical ability, that's what you need at the top level, and it just lets him down completely. But I mean, Chelsea, they're really struggling through the whole Sarri thing. It started off on fire. But again, we were talking about it in the interval. The whole N'Golo Kante situation. Talk to the people and tell them what you were telling me, what you think about it. Because everyone has their own opinion on it. I'm again of the opinion that he should be starting ahead of Jorginho now. Clearly, the Jorginho thing isn't working. You said, 2,000 passes?
Yeah.
2,000 passes, it's not even Christmas, and the guy hasn't got one assist.
Yeah.
That's just fucking unacceptable. It's sideways, backwards. I could do that. You could give me 100k a week. I would do that comfortably.
Left and right, yeah.
Just left and right. But yeah, tell them what you were telling me.
Yeah, so just to touch on what you mentioned there as well. So I think Chelsea started off the season with a 12-game unbeaten run.
Yeah.
And I think it was just the case that teams hadn't quite figured him out yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're so used to Kante dominating where he was playing. They signed Jorginho, he comes in, he takes Kante's position, Kante plays more advanced. Teams aren't really, they don't really understand how to play against that way. It's a different Chelsea. Yeah. All of a sudden, then after 12 games, they start to get figured out, and now they're starting to struggle a little bit more. Like you said with the stats there, Jorginho's made over 2,000 passes, the most in the league of anyone. That's more than any of the Liverpool midfield, the City midfield, the Spurs midfield, anybody. Yet he hasn't registered an assist. Now that baffles me, and we've said earlier on in the season, in other episodes, that when you have the best holding midfield player in the world, World Cup winner, Premier League winner with 2 different clubs, FA Cup winner, who showed you so much evidence as to why, out of anyone on that Chelsea side, he needs to stay in his position. And Sarri's just come in and changed it. Now, I watch N'Golo Kante in the Newcastle game and in other games, and I'll be honest, he isn't a man of much expressions, right? He always seems to be smiling, as is portrayed on social media.
Low maintenance, as I call him.
And he always seems happy, but I don't know whether I'm just reading into it, but he just looks a little bit pissed off. He doesn't look the same player, not in terms of his ability, because he's still getting forward and he's scoring goals and he's doing bits, but he just doesn't look as happy where he is. And when you've got a player as good as N'Golo Kante is, you have to keep him happy.
Yeah.
Now, I said to you in the interval that if I'm a United or a City, as you mentioned, I don't think it's too outlandish in the summer, definitely not January, obviously this isn't happening in January, in the summer, saying to the board, just put a 90, 100 million pound plus break the bank bid into Chelsea for N'Golo Kante. Just make them have to deal with it. Just the offer itself. Just make them have to consider it.
Throw the bait out there and see what happens. Yeah,
just say, look,
I got you.
Just say, look, we're going to bid 100 million because he is worth that.
Easily, probably more than that, in fairness.
He's not as flares like your Mbappe's, your Neymar's, Coutinho's, but in terms of what he does for your team or he brings, he's easily worth 100 plus, maybe even 150 million pound.
Yep.
If you're United, would you pay that if you knew you could get Kante of 150 million?
I'd pay that 100%
in a heartbeat. You would, wouldn't you? So just put the offer on the table, and he, like you say, he's very low maintenance. He won't cause any shit, and you put that offer there and just see what they say.
I'd be interested to see if the people around Kante start whispering to him and saying, look, this is unacceptable. You should be playing in this position, because you'll have family, you'll have friends, you'll have agents, you'll have other influences that will be around him, and they won't accept the fact that Sarri plays him the way he does. Most people won't accept the fact Sarri plays him the way he does because he is so fucking good. He's unbelievable. He's probably the best holding midfielder of his generation. I'll make that statement now. I don't think there's anybody better than N'Golo Kante in a holding role.
It's a big call, but he's got the major on.
The only other one you could say is Busquets.
Yeah,
that's it. And Busquets has played in winning sides his entire career, by the way. So
no, you wouldn't be too far off. I'm struggling to think of too many names where I could put in the same sentence, so I'm not outright going to disagree with that. And some people, when I mention about United or City going in for Kante, might think that that's stupid to say that, but I don't really think it is that much, because money talks, and for as much money as Chelsea can pay, I think they've kind of fallen a little bit off the City United pace of money being paid for players the last couple of years. United and City could both offer him bigger wages than Chelsea can, and City perhaps not, and probably definitely not, but United are a much bigger club, and like you said, there'll be people around him who could be whispering to him and kind of saying, you should be the first name on this team sheet. And you're not at the moment, or it doesn't seem like it, because Jorginho at least is being picked in this position.
Jorginho, someone might want to do a DNA test on Jorginho and see if he is actually Sarri's child, because the justification for putting him in the side now in that position is slowly evaporating, and I don't really understand it, and I wonder how many people at Chelsea will start to challenge him and go, hang on a second, you're wrong. Because Chelsea have serious issues moving forward. Madrid are probably going to go for Hazard in the summer. He'll probably go. If he doesn't go this summer, he'll be at Chelsea forever, so he'll probably go. You have the whole Kante thing then, where it's like, okay, you're not going to play me in my position, I'll go to someone who will. They have no real world-class striker.
And to add to that as well, Barcelona look like they're going to be coming back in for Willian as well. They either have, or there's been rumours they're going to place another bid for him. And if I'm Willian, are you going to do it now, Barcelona?
I mean, look, Chelsea aren't realistically going to win anything this season, I don't think. And they'll probably struggle to win anything next season the way they're going. I mean, like I said, they lack a world-class striker. They lack a world-class defender. They have a world-class midfielder who they do not play in his favourite position. So with Chelsea now, they're going to be the architects of their own downfall. They are basically going to hit the self-destruct button because the season is set up for them to do okay. There's minimal expectation on Chelsea. No one's saying go win the league, go do X, Y, and Z. Just finish in the top 4, build upon it next season. And they look like they're about to fuck that up over something stupid.
Yeah, I believe I read somewhere as well quite recently that any Chelsea manager that hasn't won silverware in their first season has gone on to be sacked.
Really?
For next season.
It's interesting, actually, that is.
So obviously Sarri's in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. I know you could argue that tie is very much still alive with Chelsea with the home second leg. But the history says that he could very well lose his job in this next season if they don't go on to win any silverware. And you look at the game on Saturday against Newcastle. Yes, Newcastle come away with nothing. Yes, it looks pretty bleak for them, but they weren't all that bad. Now Chelsea got the early goal, great pass by David Luiz, by the way.
By the way, pass. Do you know, in previous episodes again, we've talked about David Luiz, how good he can be in a back 3. I've said time and time again, and Vecchi's in agreement with this, if you have a back 3 and you have 2 natural defenders either side of him that can actually defend, he can be your ball-playing centre-half. Just give him the ball, and he has better technique than your favourite midfielder. The guy is ridiculously talented.
Yeah, very much so.
He can pick a pass like he did, no-look pass. Oh, my God, this unreal technique. It's superb.
No, not to be, he is excellent, and he showed that, that he can pick a pass from pretty much anywhere. I'm sure he assisted the week before, or maybe even the week before that again. It's not the first time he's done that, but as you were saying, that led to a very good start from Chelsea. But then after that first goal, they didn't seem to really push on for that then.
No.
They didn't seem to go for the second, and they didn't want to kill the game, and they left the game open then for Newcastle to chase. And from about the half-hour mark onwards, the second half of the first half, Newcastle pressed, and they looked the more likely to get a goal, and they did. It was Kieran Clark.
Kieran Clark, great header as well. By the way. Very
good header, and they go in half time 1-0. And the only difference then, which actually got Chelsea the 3 points, because they did labour in that second half and they struggled. It was a superb Hazard turn. I've never seen that spin.
Yeah, do you know his centre of gravity is so low that brilliant. When he gets the ball to feet, you just can't stop him.
Yeah,
he's a joy to watch. I've said it before. Look, I'm his biggest fan. So.
And that second half, Chelsea didn't look great, but that superb turn, just on a sixpence from Hazard, he plays into Willian. Yedlin should have showed him down the line, but he just flicks it out to the right hand side and he drills one in the corner. So you got Hazard and Willian there, two just instant moments of magic, and they've got the 3 points.
Yeah.
But aside from that, wasn't all that much to shout about for Chelsea. And we mentioned about Hazard potentially going. Just looking at them, just to back up some stats for you, which prove your opinions on Hazard correct and how good that he is. I know obviously we've had debates about him previously, but just to give you some numbers which would side with your argument.
You're going to blow my mind with these Hazard stats now, I can tell.
Yeah, well, so he's now at double figures for goals and assists in the Premier League this season. He's got 10 goals, 10 assists.
That's outstanding.
The only other player in Europe's top 5 leagues to hit double figures for both is Messi.
Really?
He's had 16 goals, 10 assists.
See, I keep telling you people, Hazard is that
so
guy.
If you're looking at contribution to the team in terms of goals and assists, he did go on a little bit of a barren run, which makes you think that, had he not have had that poor run, where could he be? I know you could say, ifs, buts, maybes, whatever. But he's, the stats don't lie. Only him and Messi are the only two players in Europe's top 5 leagues that have double figures for goals and assists. So that tells you how much he contributes to Chelsea, which is obviously a lot more than any other player. And Willian is the next best one for me. Obviously Kante aside. So they lose Hazard, they're in big trouble.
Well, Chelsea are going to go through a period of transition where they'll probably lose Hazard, and they look like they're going to lose one of the best young English talents of his generation. Now, Hudson-Odoi seems desperate to move to Bayern Munich. If you're him, is that it now? Are you done? Because again, he came on after Hudson-Odoi came on in the 81st minute of that game, and realistically, I know it's difficult sometimes to justify putting him ahead of Pedro and Willian and Hazard, who are established internationals, and that's fine. You can make that case, but at the same time, now he needs to play to develop. And if Bayern Munich are saying you're going to be our guy, we're going to give you, they were saying the number 10 shirt because Robin's going in the summer, Ribery's going in the summer. I think he has to make that move. I don't think he can turn it down.
No, I 100% agree, without a doubt. And I actually got into a little bit of a, I wouldn't say heated debate, but it was very back and forth with, it must have been a Chelsea fan on Twitter, and I mentioned about how he has to go in order to progress his career.
He does, he has to.
And he came back with just a lot of nonsense, really, about the fans love him. And I said, well, that means nothing. And he said, if that means nothing, then you don't know your football. And I literally said to him that what you don't see is that he's only being played recently, Hudson-Odoi,
because he kicked up a fuss,
and the whole Pulisic situation. You look past that, and before that, he hardly got a kick.
No.
And they're literally playing him just to try and squash the rumours and keep the fans happy and keep Hudson-Odoi happy. But the harsh reality of the situation is, and Chelsea fans, feel free to to comment on the section below, agree, disagree, say whatever you want to say. But the harsh reality of the situation is, you look back historically, Chelsea do not turn academy players into first team players.
Even now, Loftus-Cheek is almost 25 and he's still not nailing down a regular spot. It bewilders me that young kids continually pick Chelsea as their club to go to. I can only assume it's money.
Yeah.
I can only assume that's it.
We've had this debate in the past, and we could have it for probably hours on end about the whole Chelsea situation, with how much talent comes through there but doesn't go on to play for them in the first team. Without getting into that debate, the facts don't lie. No matter how talented their youngsters are, they do not go on to become consistent first team players. And Hudson-Odoi will be no different. If you're a Chelsea fan and you think any different to that, then you're deluded. I'm sorry. You can, like I say, comment and interact with us and let us know what you think.
Yeah,
more than happy
Chelsea
to interact
fans,
and hear you out and have these debates with you. But the facts do not lie.
That's very true. What I will say, just to add a little tag onto that, there's no friends in business. So Chelsea fans can love him all you want, but there are no friends in business. You got to do what's best for you, and that's what Hudson-Odoi will do. Now, speaking of no friends in business, maybe there is friends in business. Rio Ferdinand had some very interesting comments which enraged Newcastle fans. Oh, they were fucking fuming with Rio Ferdinand. Basically, Rio Ferdinand, he gave his props to Mike Ashley. He said, look, Mike Ashley's not such a bad guy. You're very lucky to have him. Oh, that set off a grenade up north. Newcastle fans, they went in on him. Can I just point out as well, interacting with Rio on Twitter is fine, but some little fuckboy put on there earlier, "Where's your wife?" Like, this man's wife died of cancer. His kids have no mother, in their life. Okay, I get you're passionate about your football club. That's cool, innit? But don't take it to those levels, because that's just
got
weird.
to draw the line. It's football.
Yeah, it's football at the end of the day. And with all due respect to Newcastle fans, it's great that you're passionate about the club, but the club will never love you the way you love the club. So a lot of people need to realise that when they're in those heated moments, just take a step back and go, yeah, okay, it's entertainment. Yeah, I love it, but it's entertainment, and I'm not going to diss somebody's dead wife. Do you mean? And by the way, again, totally another faceless individual who has, fucking doesn't even have a proper picture on their Twitter profile. So do us all a favour, stop hiding behind your profiles, you little bums. And if you've got something to say, come and say it to people, because that's just unacceptable. But that's social media in general. That's the negative part. The positive part is we get to interact with stuff like this. But going back to what Rio was saying, do you think there's a conflict of interest a little bit, or is he genuine about it? What he's saying? I personally think there's a conflict of interest there.
I don't know a whole lot about it, I'll be honest, but from what I gather, I would agree with that. Because his comments don't really carry much weight about either, because they mentioned about they should be thankful for for the fact that he got them back up and he spent money out of his own pocket and then they got Benitez. For as much as I love Rio Ferdinand, and it goes without saying I'm a big United fan and obviously a Rio fan as well, but the only reason that they ever went down into the Championship was arguably because of Mike Ashley.
Yeah, that's facts, yeah.
So they'd never been relegated, as far as I was aware, before him, or not for an awful long time. And it was his ownership of the club and his lack of spending and not going with the times in terms of the transfer money that's being spent. How many times do we have to say that their biggest signing is still Michael Owen from 2005-2006,
that's
which is bizarre. But there must be a conflict of interest, because for someone who I quite rate as a pundit as well, and I quite like, and his analysis is usually pretty.
He's very
good.
straight down the line, isn't he? Usually,
he was quite wide of the mark there, because I don't know how you can't say, whether you're a Newcastle fan, even a Sunderland fan, or any football fan, that you can't question that it's Mike Ashley's poor ownership which has put them in the position that they're in now. Yeah,
people need to stop buying football clubs as investments, because most of them will never turn a profit. The harsh reality is football is a very fickle business. If you're in it, you've got to be passionate about it. I do feel sorry for Newcastle fans. Again, we've had a little section before on shit owners. It's kind of developed into that. You got the Glazers at United, you got Kroenke at Arsenal. Abramovich is doing his bit at Chelsea, in fairness, but he'll probably get bored later down the line.
What I would say as well is, with Newcastle fans, you can get as angry as you like over comments made by Rio Ferdinand. I would just advise to put all your passion and energy into something better. That's going to make a difference in the club, rather than trying to bash Rio Ferdinand on Twitter. Because
far better ways.
Yes, I disagree with his comments, but like you said, what they said about his wife that passed away is completely out of order. And you can disagree and you can throw whatever swear words and insult as much as you like, but when you cross a line like that, it's totally unacceptable.
And that's not all Newcastle fans either, by it. It's just
we're not tarring all with the same brush at all, and it's not Newcastle. It's not just that club.
It happens all over.
There's fans of other clubs who say things that are totally unacceptable as well. But rather than getting really caught up and pissed off about Rio's comments, you should maybe sort of just look at putting all the passion and energy into maybe boycotting games and continuing trying to get Ashley out of the club.
Cool. We'll draw a line under it. Newcastle, unlucky. Chelsea march on, but very unconvincingly. We'll skim through the Liverpool game. There's not an awful lot to talk about in the Liverpool game. Look, it's the kind of 1-0 win, as me and Becky were speaking about earlier on, that if you want to go and win championships, those are the games you've got to win. You win them 1-0. I mean, they had no real recognised centre-backs other than Van Dijk, although realistically he's so good he could probably play there by himself and do a job anyway. Fabinho slotted in, did very well. Salah bangs a penalty home. Everyone goes home happy. Bar Brighton fans, obviously.
Yeah, and what you said about Van Dijk there, and it kind of really segues nicely into a stat that I've got, but just to kind of back up what you said in my Liverpool transfer video, if you haven't already watched it, you
get involved.
I mentioned that I do still think Liverpool need another quality centre half, because Van Dijk is that good that whoever plays next to him, he brings them up to his level. Fernandinho is another example of that. Not Fernandinho, sorry. Fabinho, sorry. Is another example of that. And he didn't look out of place because of how good and how organised Van Dijk is. Now, what Liverpool fans, or maybe some Liverpool fans, might not realise is that if Van Dijk gets injured or you take him out and all of a sudden you've got Lovren and Fabinho,
so that's a whole other ball game.
That's when you have problems.
That's a problem.
Now, a stat that will just back that up for you, okay? So, this clean sheet for Liverpool on the weekend was their 50th Premier League clean sheet under Jurgen Klopp. Okay? 21 of those clean sheets have come since Van Dijk signed in January.
He's a beast, I'm telling you. Van Dijk, I've said it, is the best centre-half in the world.
And Klopp has been there since 2015, I believe.
Has he?
Yeah.
I read a stat. Maybe the stat is incorrect, or maybe someone made it up. I don't know. It was about Van Dijk. Apparently, nobody has dribbled past him in a certain amount of time. I don't know if it's maybe this season.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I'll try and find that stat now, actually. But when I saw it, I was like, no, that can't be true, surely.
Yeah. But, yeah, and just from what I said there as well, if Klopp has been there since roughly 2015, and almost half of his clean sheets have come since Van Dijk signed in January, that's a huge stat. That tells you everything you need to know about the quality of Virgil van Dijk and what he does for that side. Now, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter as well. I can't remember who tweeted, but someone sent a tweet out to Matt Hummels. Have you seen it?
Oh, I did, yeah.
And said, is Virgil van Dijk the best centre-half in the world?
Yeah.
And he very humbly replied, yes. And that's coming from a very, very good centre-half in Matt Hummels.
Hummels is... he's not.
He's recognising that as well.
Yeah, he's not the best centre half right now, but he was one of the best centre halves of his generation, 100%.
Yeah. And obviously that meant that Liverpool, they got a clean sheet. Salah's penalty, there was a big talking point about his previous penalty. Did he dive? Did he go down too easily? I don't think there's even a case for this one this weekend. Pascal Gross, I don't know what he's doing in the penalty area. Such a silly foul.
It's definite penalty.
He's turned, but there's still 2 or 3 Brighton defenders there who seem to have him covered. He's just got desperate, and he's pulled him down. That was ultimately the difference. Has got them the 3 points. So Liverpool have now got 57 points out of 22 games, and only 4 clubs in top flight history have had more after 22 games in a season. And only one team in the modern era, if you like, City of last season, where they had 62 at this point. Have had more. So you take City of last season out of the equation, no side in the Premier League history.
Liverpool are flying. I said, look, it's theirs to lose. I've maintained that. I went for City at the start of the season, but then having seen how good this Liverpool side are, the next 4 or 5 games will be definitive, because Liverpool's run-in is really, really tough, and they're going to have a bullseye on their back, because a lot of people aren't going to want them to win the league. If they can go into that run-in with a cushion of, let's say, 6 to 8 points, they have a chance. Yeah. But if they drop points between now and then, it's going to be really difficult for them.
Well, you mentioned a valid point as well, that these 1-0 Liverpool wins are not what you would associate with them in previous seasons. No. Last season, they only won 1 game by the scoreline of 1-0. They've already done that 5 times this season. Yeah. So that will tell you that when they're not playing well, and which if you look at it really, watch the Brighton game, they weren't all that great, Liverpool, on the day.
No, not at all, no.
But they got the job done.
That's, as I say, that's what you need, isn't it?
And you look at the United side of the past, and the Fergie are famous for, yes, they would put 3, 4, 5 goals past many a team. But when they weren't playing well, they were organised defensively, they were tight at the back, and they would get the goal. That would get the 3 points. Now, that could potentially be the difference, with Liverpool. But, watching City, live now, they're 3-0 up, I believe, against Wolves, which would take the points tally back to 4 between them, I believe. So it's just 4.
It is indeed, 4 points.
So it's nowhere near enough for Liverpool at the moment to kind of take their foot off the gas at all. They can't afford to slip up. Because I think if they do slip up and it drops down to 1 point, then they could be in big trouble.
It's like we said. I mean, Man City have had multiple players out injured. De Bruyne and then Silva's been out, and Aguero's been out, and Vinny Kompany's been out, and they have the strength and depth to still be there. If Liverpool lose Van Dijk, I could see it all crumbling.
Van Dijk's the one for them.
He's the one. He's 100% the one.
You look, they've got Joe Gomez out injured, Lovren's out injured, Matip's out injured. Lallana's out injured, Ox is out injured. They've got good players out injured, but they're able to cover those positions. The one that they currently can't cover, is Van Dijk, and that's why in my Liverpool transfer video I put 2 centre halves in there.
You did. Great video as well. If you get a chance, guys, make sure you go and watch it because it's really interesting. As the others are as well. I mean, Liverpool game, like I said, we won't overanalyze it because they did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Brighton, no one was really expecting them to win. If they got a draw, it would have been terrific. But they can move on quite happily to the next game. Some breaking news tonight is that David Wagner has left. Now, we talk about there being no friends in business. You said they would basically be loyal to him and not sack him.
Yeah.
That's gone out the window. I don't know what they're going to achieve by bringing in a new manager. I mean, either Huddersfield think they can stay up or they're just prepping for the new season next season.
Yeah.
It's got to be one or the other because realistically, letting him go now, I mean, where are they in the table? Let's have a quick look. They're bottom on 11 points, minus 24 goal difference, and they're 8 points off of Cardiff, who are on 19 points in 17th position. I mean, I don't see any way back for them anyway. So,
no.
And it's realistically, his job was always going to be a tough job. So sacking him now, I mean, the fans went against him. The players were still playing for him. They're just not good enough players. So is it the right decision?
It's a really difficult one, this, because, and I, as you pointed out there, I did say previously that David Wagner alongside Sean Dyche, so Burnley and Huddersfield, neither of their managers would be sacked, in my opinion, because of the loyalty and how well they've done for the club.
No friends in business.
Now, obviously, Sean Dyche has had a good upturn in fortune. We'll come to that game shortly, but they've won 3 on the bounce now, I believe. Which has given them a lot more hope in the table, and it makes it obviously a lot easier to back your manager when he starts to win games. Okay.
Yeah.
Now Huddersfield, up until this weekend, had lost 8 on the spin. You could argue they were possibly unlucky not to get a penalty. It was actually awarded to them and then overturned, which David Wagner was absolutely raging about, and rightly so.
When your luck is out, your luck is out, isn't it? Yeah.
And nothing was going for them, but it's a very tricky one for me because I'm still not sure if he should have been sacked because, like you said, one, who do they bring in? Who wants to come into that? You're in the January transfer window. They've got no money to spend. It's not for the lack of trying. Huddersfield fans, please, shed some light on the situation.
Yeah, please
as well.
do.
But I don't really see what they can do. Unless they're going to try and bring in like a Ralph Hasenhüttl or someone with a little bit of panache and a little bit of a tactical nous about them that's going to make a massive change.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with the Southampton players, they had talent. They got Premier League players with ability. Huddersfield haven't got that.
Bar maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think Reece. It might have been Reece that mentioned previously that you look at that Huddersfield squad and there's still players I don't even know properly that well. I hear players' names. I'm like,
who is that?
Yeah, where's
and it's not for a lack of football knowledge.
Yeah,
it's just they're not.
They don't do anything.
Recognised players. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that they've got a squad of championship players, and that's exactly where they're going to end up.
They may struggle in the championship next season. Look, it's a very competitive league.
When you're the board and the owners of Huddersfield, and you're right at the bottom of the table, 8 points away from safety, I think that they've probably looked at the situation and gone, there's only one thing that we can do, because David Wagner's not going to save us. So they've probably turned around and gone, well, thank you very much for all that you've done for Huddersfield Football Club.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to make a change. It's the only viable option, is to just roll the dice.
It's an interesting topic. Looking at the games between Huddersfield and Cardiff, this is a really interesting stat. Both Premier League games between Cardiff and Huddersfield have ended goalless this season, despite 36 shots attempted across the 2 games. It's a bit like watching Stevie Wonder try and play snooker in it. It's just never going to go in. It's 180 minutes of shite. Like, would you watch Stevie Wonder play snooker instead?
Well,
I would watch him play snooker. I swear, if you said watch Stevie Wonder play snooker for 180 minutes or Cardiff Huddersfield over 2 games,
I'd take the snooker.
I'd take Stevie all day. Yeah. But look, Cardiff had as many players booked as they managed shots in the match. 3. Tells you about all the quality. The most interesting thing was Neil Warnock and his Brexit
yes.
his Brexit statement. We won't go into that because this isn't a political show, but
just to put a bigger spin on what you said about both the games between Cardiff and Huddersfield finishing 0-0. 36 shots they had, not one of them could find a net. Impotent is the word that comes to mind.
Pure impotency, that's what that is.
But just to shine the light a bit further on Huddersfield with that, they've actually failed to score in 52% of their Premier League matches. So they've played 60 Premier League games since promotion.
Huddersfield fans, if they do watch VMV,
I'm sorry,
they probably fucking hate us so much. Because I know
sorry,
we criticise them all the time, but it's very, you can't polish a turd. Like, it's very difficult to do anything with it.
Huddersfield fans, I'm very sorry, but I have to deal in facts. And 31 out of 60 Premier League games, they have not scored a goal.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just being honest. I do feel sorry for Huddersfield Town because it was amazing to see them get promoted. For a club of that size, I know, and they went up the right way as well. They played decent football in the Championship, but there was just a lack of investment, and there's just not enough quality in that side for them to really do anything. I know earlier on in the season we made predictions about Cardiff going down, and we got a couple of things wrong, but I think this one's pretty much a foregone
Cardiff
conclusion.
still could go down. I mean, look, it's going to be a straight shootout between Cardiff or Newcastle, probably. One of who is going to go down, or one of whom is going to go down.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, the game itself wasn't that great. I'm just trying to pick stats that people might find interesting.
Yeah, I literally wrote on the same. I'm reading up my notes. There's nothing really great to say about the game other than Huddersfield didn't lose.
Cardiff had the first shot of the match after 29 seconds. Then they had to wait until the 70th minute for the next effort on goal.
You mentioned earlier about if you were a Spurs or United fan being thrilled to pay money for your ticket.
Honestly,
Flip that in his head.
I'd be raging. If I was a Huddersfield fan and I travelled all the way from Huddersfield to Cardiff to watch that shite, you got to be a diehard. Salute to anybody that salute to anybody that did it, because it's not easy. The only other interesting thing I found about it was Reece Healey played his second Premier League match for Cardiff City 4 years and 246 days after playing his first against Chelsea. I don't know where Reece Healey's been the past 4 years, to be honest with you. I'm still not entirely sure who he is. But yeah, well done, Reece Healey. Good on you, son. God loves a trier. There we go. It only took him 4 years to get another appearance. Persistence pays off. It does indeed. Cool. All right, so we'll go to a quick interval. Again, add us up on the relevant social media platforms, and we'll be back with the best of the rest, and we'll round it all up. See you in a minute, gang. All right, boom, we're back. Again, hope you've added us all up on the relevant social media platforms. Me and Becky are going to go over the best of the rest of the remaining fixtures. We'll segue nicely into Burnley against Fulham. Burnley, as Becky said, they're resurgent. They're coming on now, doing very well for themselves. Sean Dyche probably got a little bit of breathing space in terms of the relegation fight. Burnley currently 15th in the table on 21 points. By no means safe, but the confidence they have is going to push them on. It's back, yeah. Great win against Fulham, who are... I'll be honest with you, did I tip Fulham to go in the top 10? I tipped them to do at least a top half, considering the players they
close to, yeah.
And Andre Schürrle, by the way, look, quality is quality no matter where you play, what position, where you are in the league, where you are in the world. His goal was absolutely outstanding. How he's on a 2-year loan at Fulham, I don't know.
Who even does 2-year loans these days anyway?
Who came up with the idea and thought, you know what, we'll give him away for 2 years? That's a long time. That's a long time to lend someone anything, let alone a player. Yeah. But he won't be at Fulham next season. No way. He should be at a higher level. But Fulham, they're in free fall. Ranieri, he's not turning this one round, I don't think. I think they're going to go back down. And if they go back down, oh man, they're going to lose some players. Mitrovic, Sessegnon,
some money being spent there.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's your take on Fulham as a team this season? What do you think they're lacking?
Defensive issues are huge. They're yet to win an away Premier League game this season. Only club that hasn't won away, just to add as well. But they just can't keep clean sheets.
I have a hell of a statue if you know when you're ready.
I'm going to be ready for it in a moment. But if you told Ranieri on the weekend that Fulham would score 3 goals, he'd be happy with that. But and then you had the 2 of them for Burnley. So some odd stats about Burnley become the first ever side to score 2 goals.
Jesus, I know, it's crazy
in a Premier League match without having a single shot on target. So they're not having issues finding a net at the moment for them, but there is talent in that side, right? Before you come out with your stat, okay? Yeah. There's a lot of talent in that side. You've got Schürrle, Sessegnon, Mitrovic, Jean-Michel Seri as well as there.
Yeah, good player.
And you thought their defensive signings weren't that bad. They signed
Mawson, they've got Callum Chambers.
Yeah, exactly. And so you look at their squad on paper, and it's not that bad. And it's not. If you go back to rewind to the start of the season, there wouldn't be many people laugh at you for saying that they'd maybe run about top 10 to 12.
I was that guy. I was one of those guys.
Yeah, that they could do a Wolves. And I, part of me thought that was possible as well, but defensively they are so fragile, so fragile, and
makes you wonder why though, because again, Mawson was supposed to be a regular. He was the next thing. He's going to be a regular England centre half. Callum Chambers came so highly rated.
Yeah.
Between them, I don't know. Maybe we overestimate English players sometimes, and maybe they get too hyped up, and maybe they just weren't as good as people thought.
Yeah, and I think at the moment, I think Ranieri deserves a little bit more time at the moment.
Yeah, 100%,
Because they have improved slightly since he's come in. And you couldn't say that they were very, very unlucky against Burnley. They couldn't have done anything about the 2 own goals. Absolutely nothing to stop those. And you take those away. And people say it's easy to say, just take those away. But Burnley didn't actually have a shot on target. So you could very easily say, take those away. And they would have had 3 points. So they were unlucky, but I think Ranieri deserves a little bit more time just to see where they're going.
He does. Look, Ranieri can only do so much, and he's heavily reliant on those men as professionals to have some type of professional pride and have a bit of basic organisation. I'm going to give you a stat here, right, which sums up Fulham's season, and I'm trying not to laugh as I say it, right, because it's so fucking mind-boggling, right, that it defies belief, right? So anyway, as you all know, Fulham play with 3 centre-halves and 2 wing-backs, right? Okay, so it's a 5-man defence. Have a guess, I will show you, right? Have a guess how many times they lost possession in that defence against Burnley. I'm going to tell you, don't bother, you'll never guess, right? Know. Right, they lost possession 94 times between them in one game. 94 fucking times. 94 times, mind.
In defence?
Just the defence. Lost possession. Wow. Mitrovic must be headbutting people in training because 94 times. What? I can't even... I'm sat here and I'm so gobsmacked, right? I can't even comprehend a Sunday League team losing a ball 94 times in a game.
We don't lose the ball that many times in 6-a-side on a Sunday.
Like, it's just... Throw into the fact there was 2 own goals as well, right? And there's shit shows, and then there's Fulham.
Yeah,
I can't believe
that's a bleak stat. That is.
I cannot. Well, I saw it and I was like, nah, it can't be. But yeah, it is. So yeah, true. They had a great start. Schürrle's opener is the quickest goal by a Fulham player in the Premier League since Clint Dempsey scored in Norwich. Dempsey scored in 1 minute 46. Schürrle scored in 1 minute 49.
Yeah.
So they got off to a great start. Excellent goal. You thought confidence would be buzzing. Clearly not, because they lost the ball almost 100 times between them in the back line. That's just wild. I mean, I'm not going to dissect Fulham anymore because we already know their problems. Burnley, this lad keeps coming up all the time. Dwight McNeil.
Yeah.
I didn't know an awful lot about him, and I still don't know an awful lot about him. I know a bit more than I used to. But this lad is consistently playing well, and he seems to be a big part of that Burnley side moving forward. Is he English nationality?
He's Irish, I think.
Oh, is he Irish?
Yeah,
what, Northern or Southern?
I'm not entirely sure. I will tell you in just a second, though.
He is consistently appearing as man of the match. He's consistently appearing in the headlines for the right reason. I think he's only 19, is he?
He's 19 years old, and I'm absolutely wrong. He is English.
He is English, is he? There we go.
I'm sure I read. I could have been wrong. It might have been someone else. Yeah, he is English.
Yeah, fair play to him. That's incredible.
Years old.
That's very good.
I did mention in a previous episode about him that I wondered why someone of this talent, especially when Burnley were doing so bad, why they'd not played him sooner.
Who knows?
Or where he'd been.
Yeah.
And they waited this long, and they were really in the shit, Burnley, and they've won 3-3 now. So obviously taking 9 points, which has helped them go up the table a little bit, and they're steering a little bit away from danger. But I don't know where he was before this.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't profess to know an awful lot about Burnley, but realistically, if you've got a lad in your academy, I'm assuming he's an academy graduate, that is doing bits like he is, you have to throw him in.
Yeah.
And you have to throw him in now consistently as well. I don't think he can be kept out of the side, truth be told. But look, excellent win for Burnley.
Yeah.
Excellent win.
One thing I'll say is that I think Burnley might be okay. Sean Dyche is a good manager, especially down that end of the table as well. He's a far better manager than Neil Warnock, far better manager than David Wagner was, and obviously he's now gone.
Yeah.
But he's used to being in and around that area as well. Yes, they had a very good season last year, Burnley, which may have sort of rejigged the expectations for Burnley fans, although it shouldn't really have. But I think that Burnley might be okay.
I think so.
Just a word on Fulham as well. If I'm a Fulham fan, I have a slight bit more optimism than a Huddersfield fan, because you do have players that can do things.
That is very true. I'd agree with that.
Like Schürrle did on the weekend. Mitrovic is an absolute handful. Sessegnon is an exciting young player as well. So they have got players that can hurt you, and if they can somehow manage to sort it out at the back a little bit and just get it a bit more organised, then it wouldn't surprise me to see them nick a few points here and there. Yeah. But Huddersfield, on the other hand, again, not going to go into this too much, but there is none of that.
Yeah, I still think Fulham need investment, otherwise they're going to really struggle to stay up.
Yeah,
I know they've invested heavily and they're very top heavy, but they do need to invest in maybe another defensive midfield player or another centre half, just somebody who can basically marshal the back line and get everybody together. Whom that is, I honestly don't know.
Just a random shout at the top of my head, they might not go too far on with putting in like a small bit of like a Gary Cahill or someone of experience.
Well, Gary Cahill's a name that's been mentioned. I was going to say I can't think of too many off the top of my head. His name has come up. I don't know too many others though that are going cheap.
He's definitely not good enough for a top 6 side anymore, but he's got the experience. You put him alongside a Mawson or someone like that, then
it's a good shout. Yeah,
and could do them a world of good.
Yeah, be an interesting shout. So yeah, we'll draw a line under Burnley and Fulham. Interesting game for probably all the wrong reasons for Fulham fans and all the right reasons for Burnley fans. So yeah, no, it's good. We'll go on to Palace and Watford. Now, again, I fully expected Watford to win. I didn't expect Cathcart to score twice, again, at either end. It's basically Cathcart with 2 goals, Cleverley with 1. All the United Academy graduates were banging them in. Yeah. Watford, the game was kind of overshadowed by the news about Decore and PSG.
Yeah.
Reece spoke to us earlier on, and he's gobsmacked that PSG would even be interested in him. He's a good player. He's gone on French TV, and he said that he basically wants to join PSG. I find that incredibly disrespectful to the club that's paying his wages, just going out. It seems to be, and again, it's not to bash, I'm not going to do a Neil Warnock and bash anybody foreign, right? Because that's not what this is about. We're very inclusive on this podcast. But culturally, it seems like they're a lot more open when they talk about things. I remember Griezmann going on French TV and they were like, well, what are the odds of you joining Manchester United? And he was like, it's 3 out of 5. He could have just not answered the question.
Yeah,
like a lot of British players just won't say anything. They have a very different relationship with the media.
Like Aaron Ramsey.
Ramsey, for example, never said nothing. But Decore has come out and said, I want to go to PSG. And he's on French TV openly admitting it, which, again, as I say, I find very disrespectful. We've mentioned him previously. I don't think he's a PSG player. Maybe I'm wrong. He might go there and flourish. But, I don't see what he brings to that side other than being a squad player.
It's one of those weird ones because whether Decore thinks that he's better and bigger than Watford as a club, and
he clearly thinks that right now,
and that he can get away with saying those things, I don't know. And he obviously thinks that he's good enough for that PSG side. I mentioned back to Reece earlier that maybe he's had some sort of assurances that if he was to go to PSG, then he would have some game time. Personally, I don't see it. And yes, you hit the nail on the head when he said he's a good player. Nothing more, nothing less. He has some good attributes. He's solid, good player. He's not up to the level of PSG. Now, it might be the fact that Adrian Rabiot has gone to Barcelona. So obviously there's a bit of a hole left there. If I'm PSG, would I be looking to Decore to replace that position?
I suppose he's a cheap alternative, and in the sense that he's not going to complain too much.
The thing I'll maybe compare it to is you look at when Bayern Munich signed, was it Serge Gnabry?
Yes, from Arsenal.
From Arsenal. Obviously, he looked completely out of sorts and not an Arsenal player by any stretch, but he's somehow gone to Bayern Munich and made a pretty good career out of it and contributing and doing well in that league. So whether that's a similar situation where PSG are looking at him and thinking, well, the size that we're going to be playing it against week in, week out, someone like a Doucouré would do pretty decent in that
that's
league.
True, yeah.
Maybe not so much in the Champions League ties,
but using him over the
another
course
one
of
as
the
well.
season, yeah.
The guy's name eludes me. He went from Nzonzi.
Stephen Nzonzi.
Again, he never looked like
Sevilla
a top-level
now,
player. Went to Sevilla, and I think it was a season or two back. They were, really putting him up there as one of the best players in La Liga.
Yeah.
So it's not completely out of the ordinary for average Premier League players to make a good living in any of the other European leagues. So it is a little bit bizarre, and I don't really see why, but you look at other examples like that, and there is some evidence to suggest that maybe it can come off.
Yeah, no, that's true. Watford fans, let us know your opinions on him as well. Do you think you should keep him? Do you think he should go? Do you even care if he stays or goes? Let us know what you think. The game itself, Palace are very up and down. They fluctuate quite a bit. They're fortunate that there are a lot of teams below them that are just far worse than they are. It'll be interesting to see how Palace build next season, because Vecchi in his video said Zaha would be perfect for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Zaha would be perfect for a lot of teams across Europe, and I think if he does go, it'll probably be in the region of about 70 million, because that's the going rate for someone like him. If Palace get that money and they reinvest it into the side, they could have a very good team. It's like the Coutinho thing at Liverpool. You obviously, one's person's loss is another person's gain. So they could take that money, reinvest it into the side, and have a better overall side, because they are struggling a lot right now. Just to give you some Palace stats, they've lost six of their 11 Premier League home matches this season.
Yeah.
And as I say, for Palace fans, it must be very frustrating, because when you have players like Andros Townsend, Max Meyer, Zaha, we've mentioned Milivojevic as well, they should be doing better. And at some point, Roy Hodgson is gonna come under a bit of scrutiny.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I think the biggest change that they actually need is the manager.
Do you think he's? I don't want to call him a dinosaur, because that'd be very disrespectful to him, because he's a nice guy. But do you think he's just his time is done now? He's running his race.
I just mean you look at a lot of his recent managerial appointments. I'm sure I said this previously as well. He did very well in years gone by. He did excellent with Fulham when he took them to the Europa League or UEFA Cup final, whatever that was, whatever it was called then. But he didn't do well at Liverpool. He didn't do well at England. And he had a decent start at Palace, but he's not doing very well at Palace. You wouldn't be too far, out of it by saying he's a dinosaur. Maybe slightly disrespectful, but
not in that term.
In modern day football, his tactics just don't stand up. They're just he's too it's just pragmatic and really negative, and
man management. I have to question as well. Is he the kind of guy that would motivate you every day on the training pitch? And
he doesn't play the style of football that the type of players that Crystal Palace have in order for them to flourish. You look at, they've had Pardew, Roy Hodgson, they've had Allardyce, Pulis. What are all those four managers have in common? None of them play a football that's going to suit.
They all seem to get the same jobs as well. It's like a merry-go-round of about four guys.
A lot of them come in when Palace are in danger, and they secure them, and then the next season it just goes to nothing. They just sit in limbo, and not going down, not going anywhere fast. So, they would have been perfect for someone like Hassan Hootel to come in there.
An exciting young coach.
Someone when you got your Zaha, your Max Meyers, your Townsends. Players like that. They got is it IU as well? They have.
There's
a lot of ability there on the ball, and when you've got managers like Pardew and Roy Hodgson, I just don't think you're getting the most out of that side. Yeah,
I would totally agree with that. I think Roy Hodgson will be very lucky to see another season, as will Zaha. It'll be interesting, like I said, for Palace fans. It won't be the end of the world, but it'll certainly it'll be the start of a new chapter, and I think they have a lot to look forward to should they stay up, which I think they will. Gritty Tom cleverly got on the score sheet as well. He was a terrific young footballer. He kind of lost his way a little bit with injuries and form and whatnot, but he scored a great goal, so shout out to him as well. Cool. We'll segue nicely into the Southampton game then against Leicester. Ralph and his boys. I'm still struggling with his surname, so apologies, Southampton fans. I'll leave that to you. Another great win. Even Southampton going down to 10 men, they got the wind. They got the wind beneath their wings, haven't they? I mean, look, what can't they do right now? They're just. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Momentum is an incredible thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they look a totally different side, completely different side. everything points to just a complete different scenario altogether for them. The players are playing for the manager. The style of football is turned on its head. It's an absolutely different style of football altogether. I mentioned early on about Hasenhüttl being all about fitness and press, and having like a similar sort of style play to Liverpool, in terms of how he wants his players to press with and without the ball. Now, they looked a better side than Leicester with 11 men, and they looked just as much of a better side than Leicester with 10 men.
Totally agree.
Leicester are a little bit of a tricky proposition at the moment, because they remind me a little bit of Wolves in sense that they don't seem to need the push for big games. They've recently beaten City and Chelsea back to back, and I'm sure they've had a few decent results against other top sides this season. But they do well against those sides. They're up for those games. They set up well. They counter. They defend well. But then they come up against the Cardiffs and the Southamptons.
The teams you'd expect them to beat.
And their last 3 defeats have come to teams that are sat 16th, 17th and 18th in the Premier League at that time.
Don't forget Newport as well.
And Newport as well, yeah, fair shout. So I feel like, similar to Wolves, they struggle to know how to approach a game under Puel against the sides.
He's, again, under a lot of pressure, and I'm interested to know what Leicester fans think, because
interesting one.
He hasn't done that bad. That's just my opinion. So when people say he's under pressure, I mean, what are we expecting again?
Well, they sit 8th in the league. You know, you've got United in 6th, then Watford after their win, and then Leicester. What realistically, asking Leicester fans here, what realistically do you expect, and what more can you really achieve with the clubs that are in front of you?
I'm struggling to understand what more, like you say, what more they can do.
Yeah, because he's losing games that you would like to see a side win, and you could make a case to say that you should be winning. But he's getting you results against teams like City and Chelsea. And those are massive, massive wins. Now, 10 men. When the opposition side's got 10 men, you got a man advantage, and you're at home. Yeah, you expect to see so much better. But they weren't at the races. Southampton came out of the traps, and they were just by far, from minute 1 to 90, a better side. But you just know that in the next coming weeks they're going to win 2 or 3 out of the next 4 or 5 games. Leicester are a team like that.
100%.
But I'm pretty sure they're going to finish in the top 10 this season, Leicester. So
that would be an incredible achievement for them this season. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
And the fact that we're coming into February now, and Leicester are still sitting in 8th place, and they're still talking about Puel and the pressure in his job. I just think he's doing a decent job. Just leave the man alone, But from one manager to another, Hasenhüttl has won 2.
He's just redefining greatness at Southampton right now. He really is. Because Southampton at one point were just looking down and out, and talk about revitalising people, getting the best out of people. Solskjaer's done it at United. Terrific by him at Southampton. He's really earning his money right now. Yeah, and
Hasenhüttl's won 2 of his 4 away games already this season, which is more than Mark Hughes managed in his entire time at the club.
That's mad. And that's just, Mark Hughes cannot get another footballing job after that Southampton gig. And there's other managers out there, like we said, Pardew and Allardyce. I just don't want to see these men in football, and that's not to be disrespectful to them. They've achieved a lot, and they've achieved a lot more than me. But I want to see young, innovative coaches come in and play a certain type of way and really give the fans what they want. I don't like the whole style they bring to the table. I'm just not fans of them. Other people, they like them. Fair play to you if that's what you're into, fair enough. But it's just not me. Okay, so moving on then to Everton-Bournemouth. If you're wondering why the camera angles are slightly strange, our camera just decided to stop recording, but we've recharged the camera, so it's all good. We're back for the last segment. So, with the Everton-Bournemouth game, Everton, comfortable win. Kurt Zouma got on the score sheet. Great to see him on the score sheet and playing well. He was supposed to be the big French hope alongside Pogba for a while. I know they're really close friends off the pitch as well. Zouma had what people thought was Raphael Varane potential. Maybe he's kind of just, I don't know if he maybe peaked too soon, or maybe if it was just hype that he can't live up to. But he's a very good player. I don't think he'll go back to Chelsea, but he can certainly make a mark for himself in a new club.
Don't forget as well, he had a horrific injury.
A really bad injury.
I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but I know it was an ACL or like a metatarsal or something.
It was something along those lines.
Something along those lines of one that puts you out for a long time, and one of those ones where you don't always come back the same player. So I think that's impacted him slightly, but he hasn't done too badly, because I'm sure he went to Stoke, wasn't it? Did he get?
He did, yeah, Stoke? Yeah. He didn't go that great, I don't think.
And for him to end up at Everton for a club of Everton's size, to give him a chance, and he seems to be taking it at the moment because he's playing well. He scored his first Everton goal as well. So, like you said, fairly routine win for Everton. Bournemouth did start well though. David Brooks, I believe, hit the post.
Yeah. And
they did start quite bright, but once Everton got the first goal, Bournemouth's threat then as a whole just seemed to just diminish as the game went on. So they certainly petered out. But Everton, they're a weird side, because
I said last week they're yo-yo dieters, and that's how I describe Bournemouth as well. They are both so up and down. Like, one minute you're going to get this absolute beast who could turn over anybody, and the next day you just don't know who's going to show up.
Bournemouth had lost 9 of the last 12 Premier League games now as well.
It's weird considering how high they are still.
I thought that. They're 12th, I think, still. Yeah. But they had such a good start that it's given them that breathing space. Same with teams like, you look at Wolves as well, Everton.
Even Leicester to a
degree. As well, their size that, because they had such a good start, then it's given them that breathing space that they can have this sort of run, and it doesn't impact them too badly.
Yeah.
Another word on Bournemouth, though, that since they've actually got promoted to the Premier League, so since the start of the 2017 season, they've conceded 103 Premier League goals, which is 3 more than any other side in the league.
That's crazy.
So nobody's conceded more goals than Bournemouth. So it's not an excellent start for them. If I'm being
it's an interesting stat, actually. I didn't realise that.
And do you know what the team closest to them is on 100 Premier League goals conceded since?
I have no idea.
If you had to guess.
If I had to guess, shall I say Fulham?
No, because they only been back at this last season.
Oh yeah. Southampton.
West Ham.
Really? West Ham. Interesting.
Yeah. So Bournemouth, as we know, that they're not one for keeping clean sheets. And they're one of those teams that when they do get beat, they get beat quite badly. I think Spurs have given them a few drubbings, and other top sides have as well. So that's probably boosting that tally up. But it wasn't a beat for Bournemouth in the day. They're not in particularly good form at the moment. Everton, though, well needed win for them, I would say.
Yeah. That's just what they needed.
What's up, the 10th, I think it is now. And obviously Calvert-Lewin went on to get the late second, then which obviously finished it all off. But one player I just want to very quickly highlight is Lucas Digne.
Yes, I've seen a nice little stat about him. You probably got the same stat, actually.
Yeah, possibly so. But just actually, talk about 2 Everton players, Lucas Digne and Richarlison. Yes. I wanted to mention now. Lucas Digne has been in very good form as of late. He's got 3 goals and 3 assists so far this season, and I think that was actually a very good signing as a full-back.
Yes, he's a very good
Everton, player, and he's showing his quality at the moment as well.
He's not a top-level player, but I beg your pardon, he's not a top-level player, but he could easily do a job for an Everton and have a very good career.
And he's doing very well for Everton at the moment as well. So don't want to jinx him too much on that, but he's in very good form. On the contrast as well, or do you have a stat for Lucas Digne? You said
no, it's the same one as you actually. That basically 3 goals and 3 assists equals his best ever tally for Roma.
Yeah, so he's obviously this 22 games into the season, and he's equalled his best ever return in a league. So I'm sure he'll have a couple more to add to that as well. On the contrast, though, if you want to look at Richarlison, not so excellent with him because he has only scored 3 goals in his last 11 games after getting 6 in his first 9. So, before the season started, £50 million, a lot of people questioned that.
I did.
10 games into the season, we spoke about him a couple of times on VB episodes, and we started to maybe justify it to ourselves a little bit. 10 games in, and I think Reece mentioned as well, if he can sort of keep that up, he looked very, very good. It's now been 11 games on from that again. And it's going back the other way now, isn't it? So as kind of a maybe just over a mid-season summary of Richarlison, £50 million, how do you think that looks?
I give him a B grade so far.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give him an A purely on the basis that he hasn't done enough to deserve that, but he's done a few bits and pieces. He's been okay.
He's done okay, but I think Everton, like you say, they've yo-yoed a lot, and their owner came out in the week and said their league position just isn't good enough. And I agree with him on that as well, especially when you throw in £50 million on individual players as well.
Yeah, they have to do more. We'll wrap it up, gang. We'll be back next week. For now, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want the audio format. It's on SoundCloud, iTunes, Victory and Vices Podcast on there as well. Follow me and Becky on the IG and Twitter @ we've provided, as well as the V&V one. Loads of clips, loads of content on IG as well. It's great. And Twitter, we're always willing to interact with people too. Player of the weekend you are going for?
The only one I can really go for is David De Gea. I don't even think you can call me biased for that one. He's just immense.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'm not going to disagree with that either, because it was absolutely the most phenomenal performance ever. So,
and,
yeah.
If those of you have seen the previous episodes, you'll see that I often go for, and there's very good reason I haven't been able to pick United players in the recent weeks. So, I often go for players for the clubs, but I can't give it to anybody else this week.
Cool. All right, so there we have it, gang. Add us all up. Like, subscribe, share, all of that jazz. We will be back next week. Don't forget, I've got my transfer videos coming out this weekend as well, so stay locked to the page. We will be back next time. Take it easy. Ciao.